Welcome to another episode of the Web3 Talks. My name is Ornella Hernandez, and today our guest is Richard Ma, who is the founder and CEO of the security firm Quantstamp. How are you today?
Yeah, doing good. Really appreciate coming on the show.
So Richard, I know that Quantstamp basically is a security firm that assesses vulnerabilities in the smart contract or the code, right, of a protocol, of a platform, and then they usually call you whenever there's like an emergency, a hack, or something's gone wrong. So right before this interview, you told me that you were in a war room situation. So I would love to hear what that's actually like. What happened there, if you can share details.
Yeah, so, obviously, like, most of the time when we do security audits, it's very peaceful. Like, the company gives us the code, and then we just look through it over a couple weeks, try to basically find as many issues as we can. Now, sometimes basically in the crypto ecosystem, there's like a hack that happened. And so usually like when that happens, we're one of the first to find out, and then we'll basically try to like help out with the incident. So, in this case earlier today, basically there was kind of a project that had a fairly small hack.
Okay.
But they couldn't figure out exactly what happened. And so we basically started the war room, basically started a Zoom and tried to help them to figure it out. So usually like the first step for the projects is to figure out exactly what happened, and then try to stop the hack. So
Right.
stop the ongoing theft of funds. And then usually after that, they'll publish a statement and try to track down the hacker. And so probably once every 2 to 3 weeks, we help usually to save all the funds. And then in some cases, basically help them like track down the hacker or, figure out exactly what happens.
Right, okay. So you basically provide them, it's an audit, it's a report that assesses, points out these vulnerabilities, a report of what happened, how they can fix it, right? But you don't necessarily fix it yourselves.
Yeah. So the project, they have the deployment keys, and they have the access to GitHub. So generally, like we would point out like exactly what their vulnerabilities are. We would do a call with the team and sort of show them, like give them suggestions of how to fix it, and then it's kind of up to them to decide how to take it.
Okay. And you said it's every 2 to 3 weeks there's like some emergency. Is that often? Has that number changed in the past few years? Like,
yeah. So I guess like for some context, so I started Quantstamp now more than 6.5 years ago. And so in the very beginning, there were very few projects.
Yeah.
And basically every single year, starting from 2017, there's been more and more Web3 projects, and they've gotten like more complex. Mm-hmm. So in the very beginning, it was before like the terms like NFT and DeFi were invented. And so the things we were auditing were very simple, and most of the time there were no problems. And then over time, pretty much every single year, as things became more complex and on more different chains and on different bridges, every year there's sort of more incidents.
right.
So yeah, I would say maybe like 3-4 years ago, it would probably be once every couple of months where we would be called in to help fix something. But yeah, now it's just because the number of companies is way larger. So
Makes sense. It's just that in the news we see like every day seems like that there is some hack or some scam or some fraud going on. And I know this happens across all industries, and maybe just because blockchain and Web3 is newer, like you said, and there's more companies and more players, it stands out more. But can you maybe share what's been like the worst hack or the worst issue that you've helped to like identify and then help to solve, and then maybe one that you're like most proud of?
Yeah, I guess so. For Quantstamp, we helped a lot when Ethereum 2.0 launched. So it was a big change going from proof of work to basically proof of stake. And when Ethereum 2.0 launched, we audited multiple clients that were doing the switch. And so it was basically like moving, hundreds of billions of dollars over to the new system. And there we found like many different types of bugs, and I think really contributed to moving that over. And then I guess our role is a little bit like firefighters. So, you know, the more citizens and buildings there are, like the more often we're sort of called upon. And so, apart from these like really big ones where it's a very well-known migration, there's lots of like small things that come up all the time. So, you know, maybe every 2 to 3 weeks we're called upon for like an emergency. But almost every day we find bugs, and probably every week we, you know, save somewhere between like $1 million and maybe like $20 million in hacks. So it's pretty frequent, and the reason is just like when you build new projects, it's very easy to make mistakes.
Right.
So on average, like for every 100 lines of code that a developer writes, they might have one bug. And so, you know, these projects are way more than 100 lines of code, and so it's they naturally make their way in there.
Yeah, okay. And so why is Richard Ma so passionate about security and cybersecurity, Web3 specifically?
Yeah, so like my own background is that I was basically a quant trader on Wall Street, and writing programs that were handling hundreds of millions of dollars on Wall Street.
It was the high frequency trading,
Yeah,
right?
I was doing high frequency trading, and I started out as an investor. So I bought Ethereum in 2016, and I actually put all of it into the first big project on Ethereum called the DAO. And basically, the DAO was hacked about 3 weeks after I put the money in.
Right.
And that's what got me really curious about just like how projects are going to build in the future. You know, like when I was thinking about it in 2016, it just made sense that there needed to be like security companies that helped all these projects. And so that's how we really started. And
so it was like a personal thing for you. It's like, I don't want this to happen to someone else, or if I can prevent this, then I'm going to do whatever I can.
Yeah, and I think as a lot of people in Web3 have experienced, like the first time you get hacked or maybe like you lose some money, it's very traumatic.
It is. It's happened to me a couple times. So,
so it like makes a big impression on you. And I've had so many friends that, you know, lost money in some rug pull or some DeFi hack. So it's pretty satisfying just like helping the projects. And you know, new people start companies all the time, and it's often their first time, but it's like our 1000th time helping a project. So I think
about how many projects have you helped out?
We've audited we've done over 1,000 audits at this point. We do about 250 audits a year, and we've helped out somewhere more than like 500 projects since, you know, we started the company. And it ranges from like DeFi projects to like whole blockchains to exchanges and NFT projects and gaming projects. Today it's very diverse. So.
Okay, so you've been in the space since 2016. That's 7-8-ish years already so far. How would you give your own audit or assessment of the industry as a whole? Like, where do you see it going? How have you seen it progress? Where would you want it to go?
Yeah, in the very beginning, I would say most of the companies, there were just a couple of guys or like, you know, with the idea and the white paper. And so early on, I think we were sort of in this like two dudes and the white paper phase of crypto. And then over time, it's really progressed to like people building a lot of, you know, useful and interesting things. I would say like, you know, when I first got the idea of Ethereum, the thing that was really interesting was that it's like this global system. You can like have everybody participate.
Yeah.
And I think today we're still pretty far from that. Like we have some adoption of stable coins, and like there's some DeFi primitives that people use, but it's still not very user friendly. and not very safe. So I would say it's, we're still like very much in the middle of it, and there's gonna be lots of companies that try to make things better. And the really interesting thing I think is like when I started the company for the first 3 years, whenever I talked to a project, I'd have to explain what a security audit is. And so whenever I talk to like investors or projects, I would say like, I would have to explain like, okay, here's why you need a security audit. Today, basically every single project knows that they need a security audit. There's like finer points that I think the founders are still learning about of like how to remain safe. But it's come a long way.
Okay, can you give us some tips or pointers that you give companies and then that you give individuals?
Yeah, I would say the most like important things to like for companies to do is to not rush and to test out their projects.
Okay, before deploying.
Yeah, because maybe like over 80% of all the bugs that we find, the projects could actually find. Because when we come in, like we have to learn about the whole project, but the project might have worked on it from anywhere from like 6 months to maybe 2 years. So usually the project, they're actually the experts in what they've built. And a lot of the reasons why we catch vulnerabilities is because they're always rushing to launch. So when they think about like, okay, I have these engineers, I could get them to build new features, or I could spend the next month just testing out stuff. Most founders of these projects, they choose to build new stuff instead of testing things. And that's really the number one reason why there's a lot of hacks. Most of it is actually preventable.
Okay, so slow down and
yeah,
just test more.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say for individual people, the number one, like by far, the biggest reason why people lose money in crypto is still like through phishing or losing access, to their wallets.
Yeah.
Or revealing their seed phrase or clicking on a bad website. So, and I think the best way to avoid that is still like if you have some decent amount of money to always put it in like a ledger wallet.
Okay, so a cold wallet.
Yeah, and to just kind of like try not to click on like links. Yeah. It's kind of like, it's still by far the most common way people lose money.
Yeah, that's happened to me before.
Yeah.
All right, and so I know that insurance is also a big part of this in addition to the audits business. So can you tell us a little bit more about the insurance arm of Quantstamp?
Yeah, so about 3 years ago, we started the Web3 insurance side of Quantstamp. It's called Chainproof. It's a fully regulated insurance company, and it basically helps like institutions or people that want to have some extra security for putting their money into DeFi or into Ethereum staking. And it's been growing very steadily year after year because when we do the audits, like sometimes there's like very big liquidity providers, and when they go to a project, they want to get some more guarantee apart from the audit. And so we basically started one of the world's first insurance companies for that. It's still like a pretty new idea. So regular insurance companies, they don't really touch Web3.
Right. So how does that work exactly? Like, is it just to cover the loss of funds, or like what are you insuring for exactly?
Yeah, so it's like to cover the loss of funds when there's a hack, and for like larger LPs that maybe deposit millions of dollars into DeFi, it becomes really important for them to get that insurance because like for like job security or like to just have a peace of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of just another trend in terms of like the crypto maturing, beyond its like sort of cyberpunk roots.
Yeah. Okay. And speaking of trends, AI is a major way to create a scam and to trick people. So I want to hear from you if there's been any examples or stories of how AI has been used in Web3, and maybe how AI can, at the same time, help us to prevent these scams?
So actually, an example that happened last week. Basically, there was a project that used AI to steal about $25 million. And what they did was they actually did a deep fake of the CFO of the company.
Okay.
And then they actually got one of the operations people on a Zoom call with the deep fake video and voice, and convinced them to basically grant permissions to transfer the money. So this literally happened last week. Yeah,
and they called you after this happened?
No, they didn't call us. So because this was not like a smart contract hack, it's literally just like they just convinced this person to grant access. And so before the method, before I think AI advanced so much, the method to actually confirm transfers was to get on a Zoom call and turn on the video. It's starting to look like that's not as foolproof anymore. And I would say on the side of AI being able to help, so for Quantstamp, we've built something called Audit GPT.
Oh, okay. And like Chat GPT, but Audit GPT.
So it's basically like auditing software that finds bugs, and it uses OpenAI's base model. And so we've been building it for about the last year, and we're actually already starting to use it in real audits. The thing that OpenAI is really good at, and what ChatGPT is really good at, is that they're really good at understanding the code and translating it into human language. So they're not too good at finding vulnerabilities, but they're very good at helping expert auditors to understand things quickly.
Okay, so that's when Quantstamp comes in.
Yeah, so we've been using it for that, instead of taking maybe 4 hours to really understand what the project does, it'll take us, 20, 30 minutes instead.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so.
Okay, well look at that, the power of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Pros and cons. Okay, and then are there any more examples of trends maybe that you're looking at in the space besides Web3 security and insurance that have piqued your interest recently?
Yeah, I would say in 2024, the two biggest trends are basically the increased usage of eigenlayer and eigenlayer restaking.
What is that exactly? Can you break that down a bit?
Yeah, so eigenlayer is this project where you can take your ether that's earning yield and then use it to earn more yield.
Oh, okay. So staked ETH.
Yeah, you take your staked ether and restake it and earn more yield. And basically on January 1st, there was about $1.3 billion in eigenlayer. And today there's $6 billion. And probably by the end of the year, there'll be more than $10 billion in eigenlayer. So it's a little bit like when Terra was taking off, you had this new thing that was generating a lot of yield. And people flocked to it because you already had the asset and you could basically make more money off the same asset. So it's been a really big trend, and there's a lot of companies launching around it. I think the second big trend that's been happening is the launch of ZK rollups. So currently the two biggest rollups are Optimism and Arbitrum, and they're both optimistic rollups. And for the last couple of years, there's been a lot of ZK rollups that have been in development. And this year, they're starting to launch. So they're way more complex than optimistic rollups, but they can make the speed of transactions faster. And so there's a lot of security considerations around all these ZK rollups and the projects on them. So we've been very actively studying them and auditing them and trying to give good advice there. So
okay, so good to know. I'm gonna look into that. So restaking my ether and new ZK rollups. Okay, good to know. Now I have one last question for you, Richard. Why don't you have an X or Twitter account?
Yeah, so I actually don't have any social media.
How come?
I think the reason is I have the Quantstamp Twitter account, And I mostly like to look at tweets, but I don't really like to write tweets.
Okay.
And I feel like for Quantstamp, it's a very kind of serious company around security. And so for the Quantstamp Twitter account, we just try to like give very good advice and try to publish like explanations of all the hacks every month. And so I feel that's valuable. Maybe like my personal opinions about stuff is less like aligned with the overall mission. So yeah, and I think it's kind of been probably like a good move in terms of just saving time and focusing efforts. So
yeah, I feel you. Yeah. One does waste a lot of time on social media, so you're smart on that end. All right, so then what is the best way to get in touch with you or with the company? Should we just follow the corporate channels?
I'd say just like at Quantstamp, and then we have like you can just reach out to us on the website, so quantstamp.com. And then I'm at many conferences, so you'll probably see me at one of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you prefer a day at a crypto event or conference or a day in the office?
I think it's good to have a mix.
Okay.
But I would say like, yeah, recently the conferences have been really good because it's a bull market. Lots of people are there. It's very active.
Yeah, yeah. Are you looking forward to any upcoming events?
Yeah, I would say the next one, since we're in Dubai, is Token 2049 Dubai. That should be a really good one.
Yeah, first one in Dubai after many years in Singapore.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. All right, well, thank you so much for your time today, Richard.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ornella, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and everyone, make sure to look up Quantstamp if you don't already know about it, and make sure that your security is up to date. And make sure to watch other episodes of the Web3 Talks.